Thanks for being here tonight and taking part in this unique event. And thanks for taking the time to be a part of the fastest growing political party in Ontario. A political party that's putting forward a fresh new vision and a new approach to governing. One that says government should partner with citizens. Government should be about enabling and engaging and empowering individuals and businesses and organizations to develop sensible solutions for our communities. And I am so inspired to be a part of a group of people like the folks out here tonight. You know, people don't come out to be involved in the Green Party for fame or fortune or to engage in a backroom deal or seek a plum appointment. Instead, people get involved in the Green Party because they want to make a real difference in their community. You know, folks come out and tell me they want to be involved in this party because they want to create a legacy. A legacy that says, yes, we can create a better, more sustainable world for ourselves and our children and future generations. And as I travel around the province and I consult with Ontarians and I listen and learn from people, it's becoming clear to me that folks are seeking leadership. They're looking for a political party that has the courage and convictions to tackle the tough issues of our day, to put forward a vision around how can we rebuild our local economies to create prosperity in the 21st century that nourishes our families and communities and promotes the health and well-being of all Ontarians. And it's clear to me from talking to people that if we're going to accomplish this, we're going to have to break down the bureaucratic silos and connect the dots on the economic and environmental and social challenges confronting Ontario. And I cannot think of a better issue that addresses that than food. There's nothing like food that brings people together. Food is an opportunity to connect families and communities. It brings together urban and rural. Food gives us an opportunity to celebrate our culture and culinary diversity. Indeed, food connects us all, and it connects the dots around the economic and environmental and social challenges we face. Economically speaking, the food and farm sector is the second largest employer in this province, employing over 700,000 Ontarians. The food sector contributes $30 billion to the provincial economy. Farming is the backbone of our rural communities. And if you think of many of our neighborhoods and downtowns across this province, it's a vibrant food and restaurant sector that lends a liveliness to our neighborhoods. Food is essential to our economy, but it's also essential to our environment. I can't think of a better profession that understands the profound connection between the economy and the environment than farming. As somebody who grew up on a farm myself, I can tell you every day we were confronted with the reality that in order to maintain our livelihood, we needed healthy soil and clean water and a healthy environment around us. And as I've grown older, I've come to realize that indeed our entire economy, our prosperity is dependent upon a healthy environment. If we don't preserve and protect and enrich our natural capital, we won't have prosperity in the 21st century. And I think that's why farmers are so focused on being good stewards of our land. And finally, from a social perspective, food is essential. You know, when I think of the sustainability of our healthcare system, and I think about the importance of preventing illness and promoting health, food is essential to that. What we put into our bodies is so important. And if you think about most of the diseases that confront and challenge our healthcare system, so many of them are related to lifestyle issues, such as the growing diabetes epidemic we face, the increasing rates of obesity, particularly among our young people. So much of that is related to ensuring that we have a healthy diet and in making sure that we have the right food policies in place to address that. And yet, when I think about how important food and farming is to Ontario, I'm disappointed with the old political parties at Queen's Park because food is seldom discussed at Queen's Park. And I don't know if it's because it requires long-term thinking or it requires us to think across ministerial jurisdictions. but I can guarantee you that if we have green MPPs at Queen's Park, food will be a priority. You know, I think about the farm income crisis that we're facing. You know, farmers are facing unprecedented economic challenges that we haven't seen since the 1930s. I think of the fact that food bank use is at a record high right now in Ontario. And I think about the future and who's going to grow our food, given the fact that we only have 7,000 farmers under the age of 35 in this province. And that is why the Green Party is pushing for a comprehensive Ontario food strategy, a food strategy that will ensure that all Ontarians have access to healthy, safe local food, and also ensuring at the same time that the people who grow that food earn a viable income. I think an Ontario food strategy begins with developing a provincial-wide food policy council, a forum where we can bring stakeholders from all sectors and all parts of our society, urban and rural, together to discuss the food challenges we face in Ontario, to develop the policy framework that will ensure viable incomes for farmers and access to healthy food for our citizens. The Green Party would like to suggest 5 points that are essential to a successful Ontario food strategy. The first is we're going to have to look at tax and regulatory reforms that support our farm families and our local food processors. You know, I was just visiting in the spring Countryman's Estates, which is just down the road in Brockville. You know, a family farm that had put a wine processing facility and a small retail store on their farm to turn the fruit grown right on that farm into a value-added product. And you know what? They were rewarded by increased taxes because they were reassessed as a commercial enterprise on that portion of their farm operation. Or I think of the need for smart regulations that ensure food safety while at the same time taking into account the size and scale of an operation to make sure that our small and medium-sized local processors are on an even playing field. And I think of Lynn and Patty Thurston and Lindsay, whose facility provides a critical market outlet for local farmers, a great place for the community to access healthy local food, and yet their business is threatened by a regulatory regime that doesn't take into account small and medium-sized businesses. And finally, I think of on-farm regulations, and certainly, you know what, we want to support, and most farmers I know want to be good stewards of the land, providing clean water and endangered species habitat and a diverse range of crops grown on their farm and carbon storage and a whole host of other environmental benefits. And you know what? I think society should pay them for the environmental goods and services that are benefiting all of us. The second critical point of an Ontario food strategy is to increase investments in rural infrastructure. You know what? We need to focus on rebuilding our processing capacity in this province. We need to ensure that we have local marketing and distribution hubs all across this province. I think of the Elmira Produce Auction, which is providing a viable outlet for local farmers to sell their products and for retailers and institutions and processors to buy that food and move product. We need to think about how do we support growers associations and farm aggregation and co-ops that help farmers restore their market power, get their products to market, and invest in the kind of infrastructure they need to bring quality products to market. And finally, we need to be looking at how can we support transition programs for those farmers who want to move into higher value or niche markets such as organic or local or branded products. What kind of support can we provide them in the marketplace? The third critical element to a successful farm strategy is to ensure that we have proper income support programs in place to support family farmers. You know what? We need to reduce the red tape that restricts access. We need to ensure that our income support programs support a diverse range of production practices and a diverse range of crops that farmers grow. And we need to ensure that farmers aren't penalized in those programs when they have a difficult year. You know, the fourth critical component is I think Ontario needs an aggressive buy local strategy that gets beyond the rhetoric and actually puts some dollars on the table. You know, we need to be supporting wonderful organizations like the Lanark Local Flavors Group right here that are connecting farmers and retailers and restaurants and institutions around getting food to market. And we also need to ensure the government takes a leadership role in supporting our farmers by ensuring that we have procurement programs in place for our hospitals and our schools and our public institutions. And in particular, a focus needs to be on a coordinated school food strategy to ensure that all of our young people have access to a healthy diet and they learn those important habits today that will serve them well for a lifetime of healthy eating. And the fifth and final component is we need to ensure that all Ontarians, especially our most vulnerable citizens, have access to healthy food. And that is why the Green Party spoke out so much against the Liberal government's cutting of the special diet allowance in the spring budget. You know, that type of short-term thinking puts additional stress on our healthcare system because it is so clear that a healthy diet and healthy eating prevents illness, promotes health, and reduces stress on our healthcare system. And I think it's time that we put food back in the budget and ensure that all citizens have access to healthy local food. And finally, when I talk to so many farmers and processors, they want to make donations to things like food banks to help their neighbors. And while we want policies in place that reduce the need for people to access food banks, I also think it's important to provide a little reward through a tax credit to our farmers and processors who make such donations. You know, in conclusion, it's clear to me that it's time in Ontario for a political party that understands that how important it is to connect the dots around economy, environment, and our social challenges. And it's time for a party like the Green Party that's going to have the courage and convictions and long-term thinking and vision to put forward a credible Ontario food strategy. And I want to invite each and every one of you to join us and help us send sensible voices to Queen's Park, voices that are going to stand up and say it's time for an Ontario food strategy. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful evening.